Hi and welcome to the Bucket List. Beth Christa Wilson is off on her holiday, which unfortunately, I'm sorry dear viewer, means that you're stuck with me today, but I'm going to make it a very special show for you. We're here at the O2 Academy, which of course today is one of the city's most popular music venues, but once upon a time this was actually home to one of Leeds' earliest theatres. We're going to be finding out more about a project being pursued by one student in Leeds here right now who's looking at the history of theatres in Leeds. But first off, we're going to take a visit just down the road to the Tetley to find out a bit more about a competition for some budding photographers out there. Well, it's a great contest there. Remember, you've got until the 11th of September to enter if you want to have a go yourself. Joining me now is a lady by the name of Dominique Triggs. Dominique, tell me, why have you brought me here to this particular point, to the O2 Academy? Are we off for a gig or something?
No, this used to be the Coliseum, which was built around in the 1800s, and it's one of the most famous past theatres in Leeds. It's famous for actually being the first cinema in Leeds as well when it got converted, but when it was in its theatre heyday, it was actually really famous for circus acts, and it used to have Gilbert Circus, which was a very big act at the time, arrive, and it had lots of animal acts and things like that.
Now, you know a lot about theatres right now. You are putting together a theatre trail, a theatre heritage trail, taking people around the city to venues like this, which have changed a little bit over the years, but also visiting City Varieties, which is still going strong, the Grand Theatre. You are what is called, rather grandly, an undergraduate research and leadership scholar. Tell me, what does that mean?
The project is 2 years with the university, and it involves doing 2 6-week placements over 2 summers, plus ambassador work in the academic year. They're all it's spread across the university, lots of different departments, but in my department it said just to do a local history project on Leeds, and I decided to focus on theatres, as I've always been a bit of a theatre nerd. I've always loved going and studying it. Yeah,
have you been to the theatre much in Leeds before you started this project? Have you got any particular favourite theatres around town?
It's really hard to pick a favourite, but I have been to quite a few. I've been to City Varieties, the Grand, the Playhouse, Slung Low as well.
That's based pretty much everything then. You've done the Grand Tour.
Yeah, although I still have to come to the O2 Academy at some point.
So tell me, how have you gone about putting the trail together?
I based it off last year's research, and what I did was I tried to condense all the amount of theatres in Leeds to about 10. And then within each one I had to do like a 100-year written history of it to fit like in a text box on the map. And then a part of that was also mapping my route, which was quite tricky, so it meant a lot of walking around Leeds, trying to see what worked, also trying to make sure it was quite short as well, because I spoke to 2 students who did the medical trail map, and they did say you have to cut out some places if people just aren't willing to walk there. So it was quite a long process, and like a lot of different factors you had to kind of take into account.
And you've got on the map now, or the brief skim of the map, which is still a work in progress as I've seen, you've got the big institutions, the big ticket organisations that everybody across Leeds knows and love, the Grand Theatre, City Varieties, but you've also mixed that up with more underground theatres, quite literally, some of them Holbeck Underground Ballroom. Why have you chosen to do that? Why have you chosen to look at some of the kind of independent theatre along with the big names?
I think just because they're just as important as the big names, and I also think it's nice, like before I started this project I'd never heard of Slung Low, and now that I have and I've seen like one of their shows, I think it's really important, a part of Leeds theatres, and I think it should be up there with the Grand, especially because, like, as Alan Lane, who I spoke to last year, said, they're counterpoint to everything that's already been done. So all the independents are just as crucial as the big names we all kind of know.
And some theatres, of course, are suffering, especially more so in recent years, with cuts and with all sorts of trends out there in the world. What's the take-home message been for you in putting this project all together? Have you sensed a lot of optimism, or have you sensed a bit more pessimism and nervousness about the future of theatre in Leeds?
Quite a lot of optimism, really. I mean, people have always been passionate about theatre, and just because there's cuts and things, I don't think that, well, hopefully that's not going to change, because, you know, people love to go and see a good show, and they're putting loads of different things out there to make it more accessible, like student deals, and also Slung Low in particular have pay-as-you-go feel to it, which really helps. Well,
it's a little bit rainy out here today, but I want to see some of this trail. I think we should go around and try and get into 1 or 2 of the theatres just to take a look around and to get out of the less than the rather inclement weather. Well, join us after the break as we go on the trail of Leeds' theatres past and present. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Bucket List. I'm out now with Dominique Triggs, who is a Leeds University student who's working on a project to devise a map, a Leeds theatre history trail. And we're going to take a walk along that trail right now. We've come just from the O2 Academy, which was, of course, the Coliseum once upon a time. Now we're at the City Museum. But it's not always been the City Museum, has it? No, originally the building was for the Mechanics Institute and other organisations. But in 1929 it opened up as a civic playhouse, later being renamed the Civic Theatre. It's got a really interesting history, as it had a kind of
pay-as-you-go feel, similar to Slung Low now. And in 2005, it was shut, and the carriage works across the way kind of replaced it, and it's now Leeds City Museum.
Absolutely wonderful. So you just walk from one to another, and you see an old Leeds theatre here that, you could look at the building now, and even though it's still got the remnants of Leeds Institute up there on the sign, you would never possibly know that it was once a theatre. And just over the road, you've got another one. Shall we go and take a look at the carriage works now then? So Dominique, we're here now at the Carriage Works, which is obviously a bit of a newer addition to the city. Tell me, how did it get its name?
His name is quite unique. It came from the fact that it used to be a carriage works factory quite a while ago, and it was in Stansfield Chambers, which was a Grade 2 listed building.
So Dominique, we're on Lands Lane now. It's a little bit busier today. And of course today you come down here and you see shops everywhere, you see HMV there, but once upon a time, you tell me, right here, there's a part of Leeds history as well, Leeds theatre history. What happened here?
Well, originally King Charles Arcade was King Charles Croft, it was a street through, and here would have been the Theatre Royal, and just next door to it would have been the Hippodrome.
Okay. So when would that have been around then?
About the 1800s. They both lasted fairly long, but they both had loads of name changes in that time, about 4 each, I think.
Why did they end up changing their name so much?
Different owners. At one point, I think it was the Theatre Royal, which got burnt down, so that had to have a new brand when it came back. And originally the Hippodrome, it was the Tivoli before that, but that shut down due to competition from the Empire Palace. So when a new proprietor came along, he reopened it as the Hippodrome.
It was the Theatre Royal that you were telling me was a popular one for pantomime as well, and that burned down. How come that ended up burning down?
It burnt down before it was the Theatre Royal, but once it was the Theatre Royal, it was very popular for pantomime. It was really long running. When it closed with the pantomime, which I think was the Queen of Hearts.
Okay. So what were the issues over the years that meant that theatres like that actually suffered fire? It seems like it's a common theme with a few different theatres that they suffer from fire damage. What made that happen?
It was the lighting they used, because all before electricity, so with oil and candles, it was always just a really big fire hazard. When the Grand was built, they had to put loads of safety measures in place, and they actually boasted about how safe they were as a theatre.
I better keep walking and take a look for a theatre just to make sure that they are a little bit more up to scratch on the electricity these days. Let's take a look around. So Dominique, we've come now to the Victoria Quarter, yet another shopping mecca, but you tell me that this also has a big part to play in your heritage map. Tell me, why is that?
This used to be the Empire Palace Theatre and can still be seen in the brickwork up there, the signage.
That's absolutely incredible. So what happened there? What happened at the Empire?
It was run by Moss and Stoll. It's quite a big chain of them, and actually when it opened it caused a lot of competition in Leeds between all the theatres, and it resulted in City Varieties closing for a short while, and the Tivoli also closed down.
Right, and there were also, I'm told, circus performances. There were animals being trained in there as well, is that right?
Yes, there were also a lot of animals, and one time in the 1930s a leopard trainer was actually attacked by her animals.
My goodness. It looks so, that sign looks so clean up there and so pristine, it almost looks fake. It's incredible to remember that Harvey Nicks now, there were animal performances, circus performances day in, day out. It's absolutely amazing. So we've just come from the Empire Palace, now here up Swan Street to City Varieties, which is still going strong, just had its 150th anniversary. Tell me, how did City Varieties come about?
It used to be an old singing room in the White Swan pub, and then from there a man called Charles Thornton decided to turn it into a music hall, which was very popular at the time. From there it's had a very long history, and it had a lot of very prolific artists like Houdini, Lily Langtry, who is the mistress of Edward VII. There's actually a royal coat of arms over the stage because he was quite keen on the theatre.
And he had his own royal box there as well, didn't he?
He did. It was the one nearest the stage, and he used to have the curtain quite over it so no one could see he was there when she was performing.
How was the view for him?
Pretty good. I've been in that box. It's quite a good view.
Okay. So, I mean, this is obviously part of the same group as Grand Theatre, which is just around the corner as well. What's the role always been for the Grand Theatre and the City Varieties? How have they been different?
Well, the City Varieties was part of like the music hall culture, and that was more of a working class culture, whereas the Grand was more kind of middle and upper class. And it was actually Prince Albert, of all people, who said that they needed a good theatre in Leeds, which is how the Grand then came about.
And we've done now just a whistle-stop tour of only some of the venues that are on your heritage trail that's in the works. Tell me, where else would you go after the Grand Theatre?
Then it would be to the West Yorkshire Playhouse, which was originally Leeds Playhouse up at the university campus, and then from there down to Holbeck, just Longlow.
So now that you've done all this research and you're still in the process of doing more and trawling through the archives, what do you want to do with it all? You want to turn it into a map and have people go on the trail themselves?
Yeah, hopefully the map will be out next year. It's with Leeds City Council and the university, and it'll be free of charge, so anyone can just pick it up and try the trail for themselves. I just think Leeds Theatre is such an interesting part of the local history. I just think it'd be great if people could learn more about it.
It's absolutely fascinating. We wish you all the best with the rest of the project. Can't wait to get the map in my hand and go and try the full trail by myself. You should do the same thing at home, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you again on the bucket list tomorrow for some more great stuff in your daily slice of Leeds life right here on Made in Leeds TV. We'll see you then.